Hello, hope everyone's doing well. For those who don't know me, I'm Megan Hall and I'm the athletic trainer at Wilson High School. In this video, I'm going to discuss hot and cold weather conditions, signs and symptoms of heat illness and cold injuries, and how to prevent and treat them. All of the information I'm presenting I took from consensus and position statements from the National Athletic Trainers Association and the VHSL guidelines. I'm going to start with hot weather conditions so that once we all get back to conditioning and practicing outside, we can make sure our athletes are staying safe and are acclimated to working out in the heat. When deciding if it's safe to practice outside and what, if any, equipment your athletes can wear, the VHSL recommends that when temperature is 105 degrees and higher, no outside activities. 95 to 104 degrees, no equipment should be used during activity, so no helmets or pads. 90 to 94 degrees, equipment should be removed as often as possible during rest breaks and on the sideline. And we should carefully monitor all of our athletes for signs of any heat problems. 89 degrees and below, they recommend adequate water supply with breaks every 20 to 30 minutes for rehydration. An important note to make is that the degrees are all in humidity, which is how it feels outside and is a combination of temperature and humidity. So to determine the degree in humidity, we use a heat index chart. On one axis, you'll find the air temperature. On the other axis, you'll find the percent humidity. You find them both, follow it along to the point where they meet, and that will give you the degrees in humidity. So for example, say it's 96 degrees outside with air temperature and a 40% humidity, it would be a humidity of 104 degrees. So it's important to always remember to use the heat index chart when making decisions of when it's safe to practice outside, and if it is, what, if any, equipment is safe to use. To prevent heat illnesses such as heat cramps, heat exhaustion, heat stroke, and rhabdomyolysis, we want to help our athletes acclimate to the heat. It takes about a week to acclimate, and adolescents will actually take longer than adults to adapt to heat conditions. So for sports that include protective equipment, such as football and our field hockey goalies, we want to progressively add the equipment to them, not have them go out in full gear on the first day. So on days 1 and 2 of practice, we'll have them wear helmets only. Days 3 to 5, they can wear helmets and shoulder pads, and on day 6, they can wear their full gear. And this just gives them time to get used to working out with the equipment and working out with the equipment in the heat, and allows their body to adapt. We always want to be on the lookout for heat illnesses still. Some signs and symptoms your athletes may present with are muscle spasms or cramps, heavy or profuse sweating, skin is flushed or it's cool and pale, they have a headache, dizziness, rapid pulse, nausea or weakness, they become disoriented or confused, have an elevated body core temperature, stop sweating in the middle of a workout, have red dry skin, shallow breathing and rapid pulse, or loss of consciousness. So those are all signs that your athlete may be suffering from a heat illness. If for some reason you're unable to contact your athletic trainer and you have an athlete suffering from a heat illness, the first thing you want to do is cool that athlete down. So you want to get them either into the shade or inside in the air conditioning. And cold water immersion is going to be the best treatment to lower their core body temperature. So if you have an ice bath or a cold whirlpool, you want to get them in that. And when they're in that, you want to hook your arms under their armpits and hold them up so that if they do lose consciousness, they won't slide underneath the water. If your athlete is still alert and able to drink, you can have them drink on some water to rehydrate while they're cooling. Then you always want to activate your school's emergency action plan and follow that through, so it'll be site specific for your school. If you have an athlete who's suffering from heat stroke, they can also develop rhabdomyolysis, which is also known as rhabdo, and that is when their muscles start to break down and release myoglobin into their bloodstream. Myoglobin stores oxygen in your muscles, and if there's too much myoglobin in the blood, then it can cause kidney damage. So we just want to be on the lookout for that. If you have any athletes with sickle cell trait, they may also develop acute exertional rhabdo. Sickle cell trait is the inheritance of one gene for sickle hemoglobin and one gene for normal hemoglobin. During intense exertion, the sickle hemoglobin can change the shape of red blood cells from the normal round shape to a quarter moon or sickle shape, and this change is known as exertional sickling. It can pose a grave risk for some athletes. The sickle cells can logjam or block up blood vessels, and that leads to the rhabdo. A sickling event can begin in 2 to 3 minutes of any all-out exertion, and it can reach deadly levels soon if the athlete continues to struggle. Heat, dehydration, altitude, and asthma can all increase the risk for and worsen a sickling event, even when the exercise isn't all out. So if you have an athlete that's practicing outside in the heat, they're dehydrated, if they have asthma and they also have sickle cell trait, then they are at a higher risk for a sickling event occurring. During the sickling collapse, the athlete will slump to the ground. They'll have muscle fatigue, weakness, pain. They'll complain of cramping, but you won't see the muscle contracting the same way you would if they were having a heat cramp. So even with that telltale sign, exertional sickling in athletes is often under-recognized and misdiagnosed. So it's very important that they disclose that information on the medical history portion of their physical, so we can keep a closer watch on these athletes during workouts and make sure that they're staying safe. To prevent an exertional sickling event, we want to build them up slowly in training and pace their progressions, give them longer periods of rest and recovery between repetitions, and encourage them to participate in preseason strength and conditioning programs. If you notice any athlete is starting to have symptoms of muscle cramping, pain, swelling, weakness, tenderness, inability to catch their breath, or fatigued, you're going to have them stop whatever activity they are doing. When you have sickle cell trait athletes and you let them set their own pace, they typically will do fine. But if you do come across a sickling collapse event, you want to check the athlete's vital signs. If necessary, you want to cool the athlete down, call 911, and go ahead and attach AED pads to the athlete just in case. You want to inform dispatch that the athlete has sickle cell and may be going into exertional rhabdo, so that they can let EMS know. And as always, you want to follow your school's emergency action plan, because that's site specific for your school. So it might be a little bit different for everybody who you're going to call, and what process they want you to follow may be different from another school's. All right, moving on to cold weather conditions. As with the hot weather conditions, cold weather should not be determined by the air temperature alone. We use a wind chill chart to get a wind chill temperature. It's done exactly the same way as with the heat index chart. On one axis, you'll find the air temperature. On the other axis, you'll find the wind speed. You find them both, follow them along to where they meet, and that gives you your wind chill temperature. VHSL guidelines for participating in cold weather are: with a wind chill temperature of 31 degrees and above, you can have a normal practice outside. 30 degrees and below, you want to be aware of potential for cold injuries. 25 degrees and below, you want to provide additional protective clothing, such as hats and gloves, and cover as much exposed skin as possible. Provide opportunities and the facilities for your athletes to come inside into the heat and rewarm. 15 degrees and below, you want to consider modifying the activity to limit exposure or allow the athlete to have more frequent chances to come inside to the heat to rewarm. 0 degrees and below, you want to consider canceling or rescheduling the activity. Please make sure before any of your athletes go outside and practice in the cold weather that they are properly dressed. So even if with the VHSL guidelines, it's okay to go outside, you always want to make sure that they're dressed for the weather to avoid any cold injuries. Some common cold injuries we may come across are frostnip, which is a non-freezing injury of the skin. And you'll typically see this on fingers, toes, ears, cheeks, and the chin. You'll have redness, numbness, and tingling, but no tissue freezing will occur. Chilblains is a more significant non-freezing injury of the skin. It can occur at temperatures at or below 59 degrees. You'll see swelling of the exposed area along with the redness, numbness, and tingling of frostnip. And frostbite, that is a freezing injury. It's destruction of tissue due to freezing, and it can occur at temperatures of 32 degrees and below. An athlete with frostbite, you don't want to rub the area. You want to immerse it into a warm but not hot bath and reheat it quickly. With hypothermia, that's an abnormally low body core temperature. It happens gradually and can affect thinking, so an athlete may not even be aware that they need help. When the body temperature reaches 95 degrees and below, it becomes a medical emergency. Some symptoms, signs and symptoms include pale bluish skin. So if you see like blue fingernails, tips of the fingers, lips are blue, you'll want to get that athlete inside. If they have mental and motor impairment, slurred speech, fatigue, a decreased or abnormal heart rate and pulse, or slow and shallow breathing, those are all signs that the athlete may be suffering from hypothermia. Any athlete with cold injuries should be moved to a warm area to rewarm. In the event of a cold injury emergency, you'll want to activate your school's emergency action plan and follow through with that site-specific plan for your school. Thank you for watching this video. I hope all of the information presented was helpful. Like I said, if you want to review any information, you can find it all on the position and consensus statements with the National Athletic Trainers Association, or look up the VHSL guidelines. At the end of this video, there will be a link. Please click on the link and fill out a quick survey. Your feedback from the survey will help us to improve on any of our future videos. Thank you for watching.